everybody, Questwise here, and today I want to talk about a role-playing game. It's been a while since I've talked about role-playing stuff. I am working on the Basement Brawlers concept of things. It's been kind of temporarily put on hold due to an unfortunate accident to one of my very good friends who's also going to be a player in that campaign. So that's slightly on hold, but I just recently got this. The Marvel Multiverse role-playing game by Marvel. It's produced and published by Marvel, an official role-playing game written by Matt Forbeck. A little bit of a history with Matt Forbeck, not in a bad way. I met him years and years ago at Gen Con, and I've been a fan of his work for a very long time. I put this off for a long time. I've known about this for a long time, and as if you watch some of my videos in the past, you know I'm a huge fan of comic books, Marvel especially. So to give you a little recap, if you haven't watched any of my videos before, when I was younger, I grew up in a very small town. We didn't have a comic book store. We had a grocery store that at the bottom of their magazine rack had a small selection of comic books. And we would go into town about once a week, and every week I would go and I would pick up a new comic book. Most of them were X-Men. Those just seemed to appeal to me the most. I also got into Spawn a little bit, and then from there I branched out a little bit into the Avengers. But when the Extinction Agenda premiered in comic book form, single issues, so this is around like what, 91, 92, something like that. I began to pick up all those issues and all the crossovers with X-Factor and X-Force and New Mutants and all the crossover. I bought every comic that had to do with the Extinction Agenda, and I was completely enthralled. When I later, when I learned how to play role-playing games, and you've all heard this story before if you've seen my videos, but a friend of my cousin's introduced me to role-playing games. And one of the very first games he introduced us to was Heroes Unlimited. And this became my go-to for role-playing games as far as superheroes, the genre went. I branched out into things like Ninjas and Super Spies, and then the next summer we played Rifts pretty heavily. But whenever I wanted to do superheroes, and I was a huge superhero fan by that time, Heroes Unlimited was the one for me. This is the newest edition, which is still several years old, but I have the original edition as well too. I just happened to grab this one off the shelf for today's video. When I went off to college a year or so later, I was introduced to the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game by TSR. And I fell in love with that, and I played that a lot in my college years, as well as some AD&D second edition. But when I wanted superheroes, it instantly transfixed me into Marvel Superheroes by TSR. The phase rip system, you know, you had the big chart in the back of the book, where you would roll a percentile die and you would cross-reference and you would get all these results. And I loved that game because it was Marvel. And for me, Marvel was, there might have been some, I don't even remember seeing any DC comics when I was growing up in that small store. But beside the point, I never picked any of those up. It wasn't until years later that I was introduced to things like, and I knew who Batman was, but it wasn't until years later that I began to explore things, Batman and Superman and, you know, the Green Lantern Corps, that kind of stuff. So Marvel has always held a very special place in my heart, and it's something that I interact with a lot. I read a lot of Marvel comics. One of my favorite tabletop games of all time is Marvel Champions, the card game. If you haven't checked that out, and I've done some videos of that in the past where I've taken characters from that game and I've done sort of character backgrounds and bios. and then showed you some of the cards from those character sets. That's one of my all-time favorite games. I absolutely love that game, and I play it every time I get a chance. I play it several times a week. True solo by myself, but I've played it cooperatively as well. But I just recently took the plunge and jumped into the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. And actually, before I got this, I was at an Ollie's and I picked up the Kang Adventure expansion, Cataclysm of Kang expansion collection, and it was super cheap. And for me, it was sort of just a source book. I enjoyed reading through it. I enjoyed reading the adventures. I really enjoyed the character bios, but I had no idea how those characters worked, how those character sheets, what any of those stats or anything meant. And so once I got a copy of the core rulebook and began to read through it, it all started to make sense. Watching other videos on YouTube on how to play, and it really, really captured my imagination. And I think it took its spot over Heroes Unlimited for me. I'm a Palladium fanboy. I love Rifts. I love Heroes Unlimited. I love Ninjas and Super Spies, TMNT and Other Strangeness. If you go back in my catalog of videos, you'll see there are dozens of videos devoted to Palladium books. And I will always be a fan of theirs because it was the very first game I learned how to play. Is it crunchy? Could it be streamlined? Yes. But I really, really loved it. When the play test for this came out, I did pick it up from my local Books A Million. It was paperback. It was rather expensive for a play test. I want to say it was like $30 for this little thin paperback book. But I took the plunge because it was Marvel, and I wanted to explore this, and I wanted to see what they were going to do with it. As I'm reading through it, though, it reminded me that this was much, much better. Thankfully, Matt Forbeck and his crew of people and writers and designers and the people at Marvel took to heart all of the feedback from this playtest, this open playtest that was open to the public, and revamped the entire game, how it works, how it was played, how just the concept of the game itself completely changed from the point of the playtest to this hardcover version. And I think everything that they did for this is genuinely beautiful. The playtest originally had sort of character archetypes, sort of like Heroes Unlimited, right? Experiments, mutants, special training, that kind of stuff. They were almost like character classes. And that's just something we've been used to, right? If you've been in a role-playing circuit for any amount of time, you sort of understand that D&D came up with that concept of character classes and archetypes. And most role-playing games have followed that sort of that train, right? That when you're creating a character, whether it be superheroes or it be science fiction or it be fantasy, that there are character classes and there are archetypes, and that's not a bad thing. I think it's just familiar to people, and that makes sense to people because they've seen that before. They've played, Dungeons and Dragons. They've played other games in that genre, or in that sort of scope of things, and so archetypes and character classes just make sense to them. It's familiar and it's something that they're comfortable with. There have been games in the past that have broken from that sort of concept. Marvel Superheroes by TSR was one of those things, including like the Ghostbusters game. If you're familiar with that at all, TSR did a Ghostbusters role-playing game, and that was the first one to incorporate concepts that later were transferred over into the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game. What Mr. Forbeck did and his crew with the Marvel Multiverse is they from the concept of that playtest is they broke away from the idea of using concepts of archetypes and character classes, and it's much more free form type of a character creation process. Now you can just get the PDF, or you go to the website, which is actually just marvel.com. You can download some character sheets. Like there's a whole roster of things that are free. And then there are some adventures that you can buy that have characters in them. There's a Fantastic Four one. There's a bunch of them. The Kang book comes, you can usually find that pretty cheap. I don't know if they over mass produced that, but it seems to be everywhere for fairly cheap. I think I picked mine up for $10. It's a hardcover book, maybe $12. But there are characters in there, and if you can, a lot of them you can find online. You can simply print them off, and you have a character sheet of a character that is an official Marvel character. But the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game also gives you the ability to create your own characters. And it's a pretty intuitive process. It took me a little while to sort of break my brain free of that sort of character class archetype sort of theory and realize that, hey, what we're doing here is something a little bit different, and it's a little bit more free form. I'm going to go into more depth. There are other videos out there that cover this way better than I could. I'm just simply fanboying out and at this point, that go into character creation process and how to play the game and stuff. And I won't cover that here, but I plan on making other videos covering things like the Cataclysm of Kang adventure book, the X-Men expansion, the Spider-Verse expansion, and soon they just announced it's up for pre-order right now, the Avengers expansion, with a slew of new characters, new rules, new gaming concepts, new aspects of things like using vehicles, team building exercises, those kind of concepts, and there's going to be a lot of that. So I'm going to go into that a little bit further in depth in other videos. But for right now, I just want to share with you that this has really become my superhero game of choice, the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. You can find this at most local bookstores. You can also find this at Amazon.com. That's where I got mine from. Most local gaming stores. A lot of comic book stores are now beginning to carry it as well, which is fantastic because it's an official Marvel.com product. And so you can find those in various places. The possibilities of this game are endless. As I read through this, I want to do an Avengers game. I want to do a X-Men First Class type of a game. I want to do an Illuminati, right? I want to do like a high-level, high-powered sort of campaign using characters from the Illuminati, like Professor X and Black Panther and Doctor Strange, those types of characters. And I also would love to do like a Marvel Zombies aspect thing. In fact, I bought really heavily into the Marvel Zombies board game, and I plan on using these sort of tiles as maps for the game. So in the game, in Marvel Multiverse, movement is measured in increments, like sections, areas, right? It's very familiar if you're aware of how the Marvel Superheroes game ran. Your character moved by sort of areas, and these are conveniently broken into different areas and groups of spaces that I think would work really, really well. Normally your character can run up to 5 areas, 5 spaces, right? That equates to about 5 feet per space. So you're talking about like 30 feet per sort of combat round. The game seems to flow very, very smoothly when it comes to combat. The only thing that's been a little bit of a trip-up point, and it's not even really a trip-up point, is simply when you print off a character sheet, they give you a list of the powers that your character has, but no real explanation of them. So you need to break out your rule book and sort of look those up. I think as the more you play, the more familiar you get with the powers of the particular character you want to play the most. And you'll get a better concept of what those powers do. But a lot of times when I've been sort of play testing this myself, it's a lot of flipping back and forth through the book, looking up powers and trying to remember exactly what it is that they do. This book comes with a complete character creation section. It also comes with rules on how combat works. And then there's a huge section on the different powers that you can use. Each book, like the X-Men expansion, Spider-Verse, adds even more powers. And then I would say the back good chunk of this book, maybe half, are just character profiles. And it's utterly amazing. So here's Deadpool, kind of give you an idea of what a character sheet looks like. But it's very convenient that everything fits onto one sheet. The only time it sort of bleeds into an extra sheet is they have character sheets available that you can download for free. And if you transfer them over, writing them down onto a blank character sheet, there are a lot of times when you want to sort of write out what the powers do to sort of give you a reminder of how they work. And that might bleed into a second sheet. But for the most part, every character fits on one sheet, and that's very convenient. Heroes Unlimited, sometimes, depending on what character you picked, you could be talking 2 to 3 to maybe 4 even character sheets. Sometimes it's a lot to sort of flip through. A lot less crunch than Heroes Unlimited, which is really appealing to me recently. I love Heroes Unlimited, and there's no doubt to anyone that's one of my favorite games, along with Rifts, anything Palladium. But it can be very, very crunchy and can be very sort of labor intensive when it comes to gameplay. Running a game, playing in a game. The Marvel Multiverse role-playing game seems to streamline that a lot. And you can even download a sort of cheat sheet of all the things you can do. Here's a list of the actions that you can take during combat. Outside of combat, when you're just simply role-playing, it's very freeform. There's a small part on the character sheet that's like, hey, this is your score that you'll add to your dice roll. Outside of combat, when you're role-playing stuff, it's very much more of a narratively driven game as opposed to a sort of numerical driven game. I should also note that the game system uses 3 6-sided dice, 2 of one color, 1 of another. You can get official dice. It is called the D616 system. If you know anything about the Marvel Universe, the world that we live in currently is the 616 universe. And there are a multitude or a multiverse of other universes out there. How this works is that if at any time you roll, and I'm just setting them up for you here, you happen to roll a 616 on the dice, you have an ultimate fantastic result. It means that you succeed at whatever you were trying to do. And it's that epic moment when your character gets to really, really, really shine in the game. If at any time your dice come up as something completely different, say 513, the 1 still counts as a fantastic success. So it's considered, if you've played other role-playing games, you'll know it to be like you succeed, a yes and sort of result, right? You could completely fail the roll and miss what you're trying to hit. It's still a fantastic failure. You still get to do something unique because of this fantastic roll that you rolled on the Marvel die, is what they call the red one. I haven't purchased the official dice yet. You can buy it. It comes in a pack, and I think it has like 5 to 6 sets of these 3d6. With the one having the Marvel logo on it, so that it's very easy to remember. Some of the other dice, I've added some silver markings to it, just to remind me that when I roll a 1, that's a fantastic success. But a really unique, interesting system. And if you've played things like GURPS, the generic universal role-playing system, you'll understand that 3d6 has a really nice curve when it comes to rolling numbers, and then you're going to be rolling these dice and you're going to be adding your whatever your bonuses happen to be. The other thing that's really nice about this is that whatever number this comes, let's say we rolled a 4, whatever number your Marvel die comes up on, it's all one roll. There's not like roll to hit, roll to damage, roll to whatever. You roll one time, you check to see if you hit, and if you did, you take this number and you multiply it by your damage multiplier, then you add in your ability score, and that's the amount of damage that you're going to do to your character, or to the enemy. Also, if you're familiar with Marvel superheroes role-playing game, the numbers can be pretty high, right? Sometimes you're doing like 60 points of damage to somebody's health. That was very common in that Marvel superheroes role-playing game as well too. So I see a lot of influences on this game. It seems to me that Forbeck and company have taken a lot of examples from the past role-playing games that have been produced under the Marvel license, and have taken a lot of that stuff to heart, because a lot of those were really, really good. So I encourage you to go please check out the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. Stay tuned to the channel for a few more, at least, videos on different aspects of this game. If you really like this content, you like this concept, I highly encourage you to just type into Google or into YouTube Marvel Multiverse RPG, and you'll find a plethora of actual plays and how to plays and stuff that I'm not going to get into, but because it's already been done very, very well. So I'm Questwise, my friends, and as always, please, out there in this crazy world, stay safe and game on.